You guys see me? Hi guys, Elle here. So I wanted to jump in on one more of these like tarot hashtags that have been floating around lately. I want to do the hashtag I believe in tarot, which was started by the wonderful Tom Benjamin. Really liked this one. Sort of, you know, like an airy fairy kind of thing. You know, you share whatever beliefs you have that have to do with the tarot. And I'm actually even glad that I didn't have time to do the video like right away, right after watching it, because, well, watching other people's was really cool too. But also what I sort of have done the last few weeks, I guess it's been, not sure how long it's been since the original came out, maybe a month. But I sort of kept a running list of whenever I thought of something that I just believed about tarot, I would jot it down, and I sort of use the hashtag as like a journaling prompt. And it's been really cool to sort of end up with this collection of my own personal beliefs about everything having to do with tarot. So yeah, it went on for pages and I indulged myself writing about it. I won't share every single thing with you guys here. I'm going to try and condense it down and make this fairly brief, if I am at all capable of that. We shall see. But I have my little notebook here and I'm going to use them as sort of a bullet points kind of thing. Just please keep in mind, I'm not telling you guys like how it is. The hashtag is I believe in tarot. These are just things that I personally believe are true and work for me, and this is what I think happens when you do a tarot reading, like how the whole thing works, and what I think a tarot deck is, and all that kind of stuff I want to kind of talk about because it's cool shit. Okay, so first of all, I believe that every single tarot reading, no matter on how small a scale or on how grand a scale you are doing a reading, you're doing it within a sacred space. I'm not talking about erecting a giant energetic circle. You can, sure. Do I do that? No. But I just take a moment and center and just basically decide and say, proclaim, this space is sacred in my head. And what that does is it opens us up to communication from above, communication from below, to messages from within, without, above, below, everywhere. Same thing when you erect a sacred space for like witches and pagans do. You know, sacred space, everything in this space means something. And I want to kill a bird. Shh, art. So yeah, it opens you up to communication from the goddess, from the god, from the earth, you know, the elements, whatever. Same idea here, just maybe on a slightly smaller scale. So first off, when you're in this, I call it my semi-sacred space because it's not like, you know, you're like sky-clad or in robes and like it's a whole ritualistic thing. It's just basically an intention that I set. But it makes it so that whatever happens while we are in this sacred space, whether I'm alone reading for somebody else or someone else is with me, or just reading for myself, anything that happens is important. Everything that happens is important. You know, it's one of those, that's why people think when a card flies out of the deck, right? You're like, it's a sign, it's important. However, you know, how you feel and your reactions, your thoughts, your intuition, your emotion, like we said, every single thing that happens in this sacred space is valuable, is important, it means something. So if that card flies out and you instantly just know that that doesn't actually matter, put it away, you know, like that is valid too. That matters too, how you feel about it and how you interpret these signs, and everything's a sign. Sign if we're sign. I think everything that happens is a sign and meant to happen, you know. You could even look at it like I dropped the deck because it allowed the cards to go into this pattern. You know, it's not necessarily I had to read those cards. But still, everything in that sacred space I do look at having value, having purpose, having reason, all that. Okay, so that being said, you have your little pile of 78 cards. I'll talk about why using the tarot and 78 cards, why I believe that is such a great way to perform divination. But everything I'm about to say, I think, is true for just any sort of divination in general. Also, for the purposes of what we're talking about here, I don't necessarily look at divination as meaning like looking into the future, seeing what will happen. It's just, you know, reading the runes, reading the tarot. You guys all know what that's all about. It can be very fortune telling. You can see into the future. It's also looking into the past. It's also looking inwards and outwards and, you know, everywhere. So that's what I'm referring to. So, all right, see if I can explain this. Basically, this is what I believe is happening during a tarot day. I ask that which is greater than myself. I personally like the term higher self. Like, that just works for me. But there's so many different words for these kind of things. You know, if you're like the term guardian angel and it feels like it's something very separate from yourself. Your higher self can feel incredibly separate from yourself also, like a whole distinct personality that has nothing to do with you, although I do believe that it is, you know, a part of us. You can use these psychological terms and things. So I ask, you know, that which I sort of visualize as being above me. I ask that power. I ask him. He's got a name for me. It's Thor. Not like the god Thor, but whatever. He looks like Thor. And that's literally who I'm picturing. But it's that energy, you know, that we all have access to. And it's sort of like I'm asking him to be channeled in a way, but like very, very light channeling. This isn't like deep shit where I'm gonna go into a trance and he's gonna like talk through me. That's sort of what I like about tarot reading is you get this communication in like everyday consciousness and everyday waking state. You know, you don't have to alter our consciousness to do this sort of work. And yet we have access to this information. So anyway, that's who I'm asking for messages. Basically, I'm asking for information, for wisdom. However, I think it's a little bit more complicated. This greater energy, right? This higher self or guardian angel, whatever you want to call it, has access to so much information. He's an expert on the tarot, you could say. So if we just have him him or her, whatever, sort of pull some cards, you know, and say, here, put this out. This will make sense. That's where there's that disjoint. It won't make sense, you know. I'm not talking to him face to face. There's this step down that needs to sort of happen. So what I believe is happening is, you know, he is sort of, you know, above is sort of reaching down to my subconscious below, you could say, in which is stored all this more subtle, detailed knowledge and understanding of the cards. Your storehouse, your well of wisdom, of everything you've ever learned is sort of stored there. It's like your own personal Akashic records. You're asking them to access that and translate that into, you know, guide me in choosing these cards so that I can get your message and that I can decipher and understand your message. So basically what's happening is you're asking above. You're asking that which is greater than you and that which has a much greater sight, a great knowledge. You know, they can see far into the future. They can see the hidden psychological causes in your past because they have this greater vantage point, a greater view, right? But you're asking them to use, you know, your own personal well and depth of wisdom and knowledge that you have about the tools that you're using here. This is where your knowledge of the tarot is stored. You know, everything you've ever even read about it is, even if you don't consciously really remember it, it's stored there somewhere. You're asking them to access that via the subconscious. You know, your tarot translator between above and below comes out in the center here. It's really sort of like this team effort, right? Between above, you know, your higher self, below, your lower self, your subconscious. So you're being guided by that greater spirit to draw the correct cards as you currently, right now, understand them. So that they will be on your level, so that you can interpret them and understand them, you know, the way that you do. You know, I think this subconscious aspect to the whole thing is so important because it allowed me to understand how I have been reading and studying tarot for so long. How was it that we are able to do a tarot reading when we have no knowledge, when we have a little knowledge, when we have a lot of knowledge? And the reading, it was never bad, you know, it was never wrong. It may have gotten better, but, you know, how is it we're able to do that always? That's where that bit about it accesses that really deep memory part of us. So really, you don't ever have to worry, this is what I believe anyway, that you're missing something. You know, give it some thought still. You still have to think about these things. But it's not like you're going to have to go hunting in a book to find a meaning that you don't agree with about the card, because that's going to make your reading right. That doesn't happen. I guess I thought maybe that I was missing really big things because my knowledge of the cards wasn't vast enough. And I think that it may be true on some level, that certain messages just almost can't be expressed through the tarot until you really do have a good understanding of it. However, I think that same message is just going to come through on like just a simpler way of expressing it, you know? I don't think anything is blocked off to you because you don't have an insane amount of tarot knowledge. Really, readings from people who know one keyword for each card, or literally don't know anything and just go kind of off the images, are still fully capable of this very same process. What happens if you have zero understanding of the meanings, energies at play in the cards, right, is you're gonna go off what your subconscious sort of interprets in the visual images. That's gonna be your messages. That's what you're gonna get. I believe that the tarot reflects back at you, back to you, through you, your own current understanding, you know, what you have at the time of the reading. Even if you have one of those moments, you're like, oh, I've never thought about the card like that, but that's what I see here. You already have that. It's deep within you. You knew it. It was meant to happen. Moving on. I hope that makes sense. So also sort of on the same level, I also believe, like a lot of you guys actually talked about in your videos, that the cards, specifically the paper cards of the tarot, do carry an energy, you know, it's paper, you know, they're energy absorbent, I think. And of course, everything material, really, when it comes down to it, is sort of energy anyway. And I think that higher self has access to knowing exactly what's what, whether it's a brand new deck of cards or one that you've been working with for a long time. Now, I do have to say that I think, first off, when you get a new deck and even you just flip through, even if you're not consciously thinking about the meaning of every card, I think even at that point, they're sort of being embedded, maybe a little bit of energy is being put into each card at that point even already. But especially with a deck that you've used a lot, I you can literally feel it. You know, if I have a cards laid out or something, and it's a good deck, I can like put my hand on it and like feel the energy of that card. I don't mean like just tingling. I mean like the energy of the Three of Swords. You know, like that specific kind of an energy. Yeah, whatever. I think it's kind of cool. Okay, so let's change gears for a second, or backtrack a little bit, I guess. What I believe tarot is at its core, and I've talked about this a little bit before, and actually I should probably preface this by saying that I know, tarot sort of originally is a game, was a game, can still be used as a game today if you'd like. Now, although I certainly believe that the tarot is a storehouse of ancient, wonderful wisdom, more ancient than the tarot even itself. I don't take the fact that it was a card game as an affront, not at all. You know, I think what we have to remember when we look at tarot as it was a silly game people played is that it wasn't just a silly game. You don't think of the game of tarot like, I don't know, what's a game? Like Candyland or something. Although maybe there's a metaphor in Candyland too. I never really thought about it. But, there probably is. Oh, we could probably write a whole Candyland story, huh? But anyway, the game of tarot and most of these old card games from around the same time are allegorical or metaphorical by nature, and they're metaphor for the human soul and its journey through life. You know, that's the game you're sort of playing with tarot cards. The images that appear on them are not just random images. Lots of them, or most of them really, have much more ancient, esoteric, religious and spiritual and alchemical histories to them, because it wasn't necessarily invented for this specific game of tarot. It's an idea, and even that sort of specific set of imagery that's being expressed. You know, hence what you see on, I guess specifically the major arcana cards, are these ancient religious and spiritual imagery and religious scenes, you know, all that kind of stuff. And most of them can be traced back to earlier sources. You know, most of the imagery in the tarot isn't new for the tarot. So whether that very first tarot deck was created with the intention of just playing a game with or not, it doesn't matter, because the game was allegorical. It was a metaphor for perfecting the human soul. You know, that's the kind of stuff that they were already talking about with these cards. Perfecting the human soul or spiritual evolution. You know, they might not have called it these things, but that's what I call it. And this video is all about my beliefs, so I can say whatever I want. But sorry, life is a game, and tarot is the great game of life. Oh, I also believe, by the way, that the first tarot deck, we have no idea what it looked like. We have all sorts of weird surviving bits and pieces, but I really do believe, based on everything that I've seen and everything that I've studied, that it probably looked very much like a Tarot de Marseille sort of a style deck. Yeah. Now, why tarot is particularly apt for these sort of things is that these 78 little slices of life really do cover everything, you know, between each individual card, maybe including its reversals if you like, and how they interact with each other. You cover everything. You kind of cover everything having to do with our lives, with our human incarnation, if you will. So you have your major arcana, right, which is sort of like the soul's journey. It's the hero's journey, and it covers everything from our physical life to our spiritual life and all the work that the soul does, and all of life's lessons and events and all that, great and small. And then you have the minor arcana, which in a sense can elaborate on the major arcana and dissect sort of all the different energies that affect us and all of our different lessons and experiences. And also they discuss the different levels of ourself, or our different bodies, you could say, right? The emotional body, the mental body, the physical body, and the energetic body. So really, between the individual cards and the interplay between all of the cards, I really do think that it covers everything that we could possibly come across during our lives. Internal and external, greater than us and smaller than us, and just kind of everything. So also, with that being said, I think it then becomes clear, right, that there's not one way to look at each card. There's not one specific meaning for each card. And don't get me wrong, it's not like you can have the Three of Swords can represent a million different things and can represent any old thing. No, it's talking about a specific energy that expresses itself differently depending on what level you're sort of looking at it on. If you're doing a reading about your spiritual journey, it's going to express itself one way. And if you're doing reading about the future of your business or the future of your relationship, it's that same core energy, but just manifesting or expressing itself differently at a different level. So it's not just totally random meanings ascribed to each card. Here's where you look at your astrological understanding, your number, your suit, the imagery on the card, the meaning of the card, and you say to yourself, as above, so below, or vice versa, as below, so above. And you're looking at how that energy manifests itself in whatever realm you are looking into, whether it be the earthly or the spiritual or the psychological. Oh, look, I wrote this down here. Tarot is life's mirror. Quote some sacred seed. So yeah, I believe that it's really cool because it just feels so complete. Like, I feel like it just covers everything. And these 78 little slices of life, or energetic fragments, or astrological bits and bobs. I'm stopping. But all these cards they come together to form a very whole and complete picture of this life. I've definitely talked about this a lot before, especially like living the tarot and all that, but the major arcana, it is a roadmap also. It's a guide, it's a tool for how to evolve, especially spiritually. And the rest of the tarot is also a guide on how to pull all the different parts of yourself together. You follow the numbers up, and you follow you follow the Fool through the Fool's journey. There's just endless wisdom to be found in the tarot. Also, here's another belief. I started down this rabbit hole. I started writing down this rabbit hole too. But I think if you're working with any of these other sort of decks that are like the tarot, like even a basic deck of playing cards, or a Petit Atella, like a PK deck, or like the Lenormand deck, or a Sibylla deck, whatever. These are all decks or traditions or whatever based on the same thing that the tarot is. They all have a common source. Don't let anybody tell you, because I read this all the time and it's kind of scary, but if you're trying to look into how to use maybe a Lenormand, or for me, I see this a lot with Sibylla, and I love these decks. They're so fascinating. Or even you'll see it when written about trying to learn how to read with playing cards. People are like, just because you know tarot doesn't mean you know this, and throw your tarot knowledge out the window. Bullshit. It's bullshit. It's all, they all have a common source. Like, they really do. Sometimes it can be a little hard to see, and I think sometimes the advice of take your tarot knowledge and throw it out the window really just is sort of a warning for, I guess, things like when you see in a Lenormand deck, right? You have, oh shit, what's in there? I don't know, the moon and the sun, and, you know, you have the tower, images, death, you know, things that, death isn't Sibylla, whatever, images that you're familiar with. And I think, you know, there's a warning there not to automatically go to tarot land. However, what I'm saying is that you do, because the playing cards all match up with the minor arcana. You know, you have your suit correspondences and the numbers are the same. And I think basically when it comes down to it, yes, you're talking about the same exact thing in all those 52 cards, or the 33 or the 36, whatever. And the correspondences, they exist. Having that knowledge and that understanding is invaluable. You can take the tarot knowledge you have of suit and element and what's going on and translate it into using any of these other systems. You know, also I think the realm that playing cards and PK decks and Sibyllas all tend to live in is this realm of the practical, you know, the everyday, the love life, the work life, you know, all of that world. And that's what they're designed, or what they're designed to function in. But that's also why I think that you don't, the tarot can go there too, very easily. The tarot spans everything, which is why I love it. But I think that, you know, you don't even necessarily have to choose. Like, you don't have to decide if you're going to be this kind of card reader who deals solely in the world of psychology and what your motivations are and, you know, desires and that kind of thing. You don't have to choose that over being more of a fortune-telling-y kind of cartomancy kind of a reader. I think the trick, and this is at least what I try to do, because I find it all fascinating and I find it all valid and valuable, is just make sure you see how it's the same energy. And if you're doing I find this helpful actually, yeah, like if I'm doing a Sibylla reading, and it's very practical, I get my answers, I get my information, whatever that comes from above goes down below, comes out in the middle and gets translated for me. But it's very cool then, because of this kind of more expansive knowledge that I have of each of these playing cards, each of these cards, that I can tell you even more than what the cards say. You know, like that sentence kind of reading you can do. You know, this will lead to a marriage and a gift of money, you know, whatever. Cool, look at that shit, that makes sense. However, you can look over the cards again and get that, you know, some people call it another layer, and find out on a psychological level what's going on, spiritually what's going on. You can kind of combine everything into one. And the same is true of tarot. You can get extremely practical. Your Lenormand deck exists in your tarot deck. It's right there. You know. Okay, I'm stopping. Okay, another belief. I don't know how to say this without sounding, I'll try to put this, but basically I kind of don't believe in systems. I'm not saying they don't exist in a way. So, you know, we always talk about, right, like there's 3 main systems of tarot. It's kind of a weird idea, but we have this whole Thoth, Crowley world, right? with all these Kabbalistic associations and Golden Dawn. And then we have this Rider-Waite-Smith world, even though that text sort of has very similar origins, right? But it's a whole tradition about how to read the text, how to look at things. And I get that there's some differences there. But also then you have like, right, your Tarot de Marseille, which falls under a whole different umbrella sort of how to read, even though there's a million different ways to read under that category. So when I say that I don't recognize or don't believe in different tarot systems, really, I guess what I'm trying to say is that I don't, there's no difference in the tarot. That's it. There's no difference in the tarot. It's still the same structure and the same order and the same energies that are coming through, no matter which sort of system you're looking at. Don't be scared to jump in and learn what people are talking about when they talk about a Thoth deck, because you're Rider-Waite-Smith and it seems so foreign and it seems so different. It's still just tarot when you get right down to it. It's got the same root, and it's expressing the same things. You know, they don't evolve and change that much. Okay, next belief. I believe, and actually you'll see this written about in lots of books, about how at a certain point in tarot history, you know, right around the time of Antoine Court of Gebelin and Attila and all that stuff, right, that all of a sudden, you know, that's when things take a turn and tarot authors start adding layers of esoteric meaning onto the tarot. And I believe that, of course, it's true in a sense. However, I feel like when a lot of people are writing about this, sort of the intention of it, and it's always left such a bad taste in my mouth, is that none of the things that they're talking about, none of these esoteric layers, were there before or have any place being attributed to the tarot. That I disagree with. And what I mean by that really is that a lot of the things that are sort of called layers to the tarot, like Kabbalistic associations, astrologic associations. When I say astrology too, I don't necessarily mean, you know, just how we sort of think of astrology today, like daily horoscope kind of stuff. Under the umbrella term, I feel like, of astrology, includes the study of numerology and elements and planetary energies, you know, all that sort of stuff. I head under there. And at the core of the tarot is astrology, in a sense. So yes, the older decks didn't have these Kabbalistic associations on the card. However, when they are spoken about and written about later, it's not like they're, oh, that just happens to fit. How cool, we can deepen our knowledge of the tarot this way. Yes, you're deepening your knowledge of the tarot when you look at these things, but they fit because they are inherent in the tarot already, because you are using maybe two different things, but they're talking about the exact same thing. You know, like even the astrologic associations that we sort of take for granted, you know, they're not on cards originally, that's added later and talked about later. And it works though, right? It works because all the knowledge that we have and all the different ways we have of looking at the world around us and its universal energies throughout the centuries is all fundamentally the same. It's the same knowledge, you know, hence lots of different systems fit, you know, and they do fit because you're talking about the same thing. Even if it's not described as such. There is no such thing as descriptions with the tarot. You know, we add all that. It's all symbolic and visual to begin with. Anyway, you know, we sort of have to talk about it in order to understand it. Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with layering the esoterica on top of things. I think it's sort of a funny way to put it. You know, it's how we explore and it's how we understand what's there to begin with Anyway, basically, I guess I just feel like these two systems, or these lots of different systems that people equate with the tarot, like, I just don't like the idea that they were forced together, forced to make things fit. You know, I think that's how you know that you're holding something incredibly truthful in your hands, you know, when it works on so many different levels and remains true, you know, when it's true on a terrestrial level, on a planetary level, on a cosmic level, when it's true on a physical level, and spiritually true. And that's why it makes such an incredible divinatory tool. So yeah, I think that fulfills the what do you believe about tarot sort of tag here. Thanks a lot to Tom Benjamin. That was a really wonderful hashtag. And I so enjoyed listening to everybody answer this. And if you haven't yet, make one, because it's fun to talk about. All right, guys, that ought to do it. Mwah! I love you guys. I'll see you real soon. Bye.